Okay, perfect. It has been launched. So let's see if we can see our attendees. Yes, people are coming in. Beautiful. Perhaps let's give it a few more seconds while people are joining in. Those of you who have joined, feel free to drop a quick hi if you would like. I would probably use the Q&A box down below if you would like. Beautiful. Hello. Boa tarde, everyone. Those of you joining from Portugal.
Still bom dia, Rita, because nobody
Yeah,
had lunch yet.
got it.
Kinda. Technically, it's good evening, I think, because of the after 12. I think it's already evening. But I always say bon dia even when it's late, so
Yeah. No,
not
but
the best one.
I looked at the clock because I'm 2 hours ahead of you, so that's why, excuse me. I do know some basics. Yeah.
The rule is if you had lunch, it's already good afternoon. If you didn't, it's good morning. At least my informal rule. So
Yeah.
The general rule. Exactly. Okay, perfect. Amazing. Thank you for saying hi. So let's kick start. Welcome everyone to today's webinar covering the topic of the fight for talent. So big things here. I am super happy to share this virtual table with Catarina and Gonçalo today. And just like always, we will keep this discussion interactive. If you have any questions all throughout the webinar, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section down below. I guess that's your view. Also, we will have some questions for you as well to keep it even more interactive. And don't be worried, this webinar is being recorded. So if you have your cafezinho in the making, feel free to go grab it, come back, sit back, relax, and enjoy this session with us today. So I'll kick things off with some short introductions. So I myself am Reda. I am originally from Lithuania, but I've spent 6 years of my life in Portugal. So welcome everyone joining from Portugal here. Yeah, still it owns a huge part of my heart still. And anyhow, I have been working here at Team Taylor for 4 years now. Time flies. And I'm a business developer here. So I am in daily contact with many different companies, and I help them reach, attract, and convert top talent by using an employer branding powered applicant tracking system. I'll pass it on to Gonçalo now.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and to speak more about the fight for talent. Gonçalo Sequeira. I'm founder and CEO of Hiire. We are a HR agency that is helping companies in Europe to get more tech talent in. Before of that, I worked for the past 10 years in the recruitment scene, especially in Portugal and also in the Netherlands. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about me, but you can find a lot of more on social media. But I think it's also fair to pass the words to Catarina.
Sure.
Thank you, Gonçalo. Hi, everyone. My name is Catarina. I was the employer branding executive at Infraspeak, and right now I'm a senior global communications executive. I still do employer branding, okay? My background is more focused on marketing and communication, but 3 years ago, I started to enjoy these topics about HR, candidate experience, how to tell the story of companies to attract candidates. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the past more or less 3 years. And right now I have a podcast, Milk Your Brand Podcast, where we go deep into the employer branding world and discuss with experts more about it. Yes. And thank you for having me.
Pleasure, guys. Super excited to be here with you today. I've known you for several years now, and I know you have a lot to share. So let's get started. I have a little treat for all of you today. So let me share my screen with you very quickly. So there we go. And there we have it. So back to today's topic. So the fight for talent. We will narrow things down a little bit more today to all things that come to candidate experience. We will tell you why it's so important. And moving on, data has a lot to share with us. So if you look at this, people have been increasingly looking up this term, perhaps trying to learn more, understand more, and that's all there is. So the so-called elephant in the room is very well shaped. It's in the room, and we're here to address it and share best practices. Also here at Team Taylor, so a year ago ish, we conducted some research just trying to understand candidate experience better as well, what it takes, what candidates say about it. So there's a lot of interesting details that help us understand what they like and what they don't. At the very end, if you would like to have a full report, please feel free to ping me via email or drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to share a full report with you, because recruitment has really changed. And I know you're thinking it's so yesterday, but we're here to address the digital times. So candidates are no longer glued to their laptops. We have many different devices to apply with, and it's just a minor detail to set the stage for today's topic. So that's it. I am stopping sharing my screen, and back to you, Catarina, now. So let's start with you here. For many, it's still a buzzword. That much is true. So in your opinion, what are the key elements of a good candidate experience?
Okay, first of all, it shouldn't be a buzzword, in my opinion, because there's so much to do when it comes to improving the candidate experience. But if I had to sum up, I would say something like clear and job descriptions. So the more, and this, you need to keep in mind that the more vague you are, the bigger amount of applications you will get from generic profiles, and we don't want that. So do have your salary range, responsibilities and qualifications, your expectations that you have for the candidate or the future employee, right? And also what you offer. So be informative, but also concise. Don't do, big text for that. And this is because it starts there, right? The candidate experience starts not only when they join your website, but that's very important too. Then I would say easy and accessible application process, because, I mean, I will give you an example. We all have been through that process where the company asks you to upload the CV, and then the next step is to manually do everything again. So don't do that. let's forget redundancy in that case, because people want it to be easy. So let's minimize those steps, because if you have if you can, for example, use LinkedIn to apply, or even the PDF, don't add more steps to that. Then I would say transparent communication. That's so important. So set clear expectations about the timeline. What are the next steps? Because if your candidates don't know that, they won't know how to proceed. For example, if you have one interview and then you don't give them the timeline, they won't know if they're still in the process, what happened. I mean, did they forget a bit about me? So clear expectations is so important. And this one is also so important, which is be professional and kind regardless of the outcome. Because even if someone doesn't stay for that position itself, it doesn't mean they won't get in the future. And if we are rude or dismissive towards someone that doesn't get in right now, maybe in the future we'll have a position where they might be the perfect match, but I mean, you weren't good in the first place, so you won't reap the results after. Then I would say efficient interview process. So timing is everything, don't be late. Those kind of stuff are so important too. And once again, don't have redundant steps again. So if you already have information about the candidates on your ATS, don't ask again, because I mean, you can improve your interview. You can go deeper than that. Then I would say feedback. I mean, feedback is important throughout the recruitment process, not only when someone gets in or doesn't. And you can do this with the candidate NPS by giving constructive feedback throughout the process. So, for example, one person lands the next stage of the interview, like provide feedback, and so they can improve for the next phase and so on. And then I would say, of course, use technology, because technology is here for a reason, to help us throughout the process. It helps with personalization. I mean, you can automate stuff that doesn't need to be done manually while still adding a human touch. I would also say that's so important. And the last one, and it's the end for me in this question, is onboarding and integration, because the candidate experience doesn't end when you hire. And I would say, especially in those moments where you hire and then you're waiting for that person to onboard, it's crucial. Because if you hire someone and then go rogue, I mean, you can lose the person even before joining the company. So that process from hire to onboarding is also very important. Yeah. So basically, keep a transparent. Keep it transparent, set your clear expectations, and communicate with the candidate. I would say that's very important for a good candidate experience.
Wow, Catarina.
Yeah, sorry. I was the train, like.
Such a lovely list of things for all of us to memorize.
I can pass it after, don't worry.
It's like a big sticky note that should be on our wall somewhere at the office, you know, so we don't forget about these important things. Amazing. So moving on, yeah, I think this is a perfect moment to try and get to know our audience. So I'll do my best launching the very first question of today. We have a poll. So the question is for you guys. I hope you can see it now. So do you actively work on designing such a great candidate experience, what Catarina has described? So many things to consider. Yeah, let's see what the results say. And while people are clicking away, then back to you, Gonçalo. So what is candidate experience to you specifically? Why do you think it's crucial, and why do you think we should prioritize it?
Yeah, great question. First of all, I think did a great answer on the last one, so congrats on that. And I really believe that candidate experience is not that different from other experiences that companies want to provide. So usually companies want to provide a good customer experience, right? They want their customers happy. They also want their employees happy. And the candidate experience, for me, it's going on the same direction. And I think that's a very important for people that are working on the candidate experience to think about that, because every company wants their clients happy, and a candidate might be a client in the future. And if we have that in mind, I think we can provide a much better experience to everyone that enters on a recruitment process. But answering to the question, the candidate experience is what a person feels during your recruitment process and your recruitment journey. How they feel, if they feel mistreated, if they feel good with your recruiters or with your hiring team. So it's everything that the person will feel when they start to apply or when they start to read your career page, until they will receive a job offer or accept your offer or reject your offer. So it's everything that the person will think about a recruitment process. So you have so many touch points that starts even before the person is a candidate, because I imagine that a lot of you receive visits in your career page, but a lot of people see your career page, don't like something, or even like something, but don't see an opportunity. In my perspective and in my experience, the candidate experience really starts before someone becomes a candidate, because they will interact with you in other ways, and you might convert them to be a candidate and to be a possible candidate or not, if they don't like what they see. So it's everything they feel during the process, even before they start to be in the process.
Fab, amazing. Very nice thoughts, Gonçalo. And I also have some results here that I will try to share with you, and it's very interesting. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Yeah, so what we have here, so 74% of our attendees said yes, that they have been actively working on designing a good candidate experience. No, 5% only, which is amazing, and still some that want to develop it. So what it means is that we still have to cover both sides today, right? Those who haven't started. So we will make sure to leave you with some checklist, and for the ones actively working on it, we will deep dive into things. So Catarina, since you have been running this podcast of yours, and you have been very much invested in the topic of employer branding, so looking at things from a broader perspective, how big of a part is candidate experience overall?
Huge. It's a huge part, because when someone goes through the journey to become an employee, they will get the first impression of what your culture and communication style is through the recruitment process, so the candidate experience, right? And if you have an amazing external employer communication, but your recruitment process lacks something, that's what will last, because that's what will last, basically. And you need to remember that the first impression will impact not only the candidate itself, but their network. So that's why candidate experience is huge for employer branding, because they will go talk to their friends, their family, and other colleagues about their experience, especially if it's a bad one, okay? And we all know, and this is a good example, if you think of it, we all know of that one company that is big on promotion, but everyone knows that's not true, because candidates talk. And so for the good and also for the bad. So I would say it's huge impact. If you don't work on your candidate experience, it will show on your employer brand, because your employer brand is not what you show, is what people perceive of your company. So yeah.
Beautiful. I absolutely love where this is going, guys. So those of you watching us, please don't forget that you can drop your questions in the Q&A section. There's a lot of food for thought being shared. Gonçalo, we're searching for some examples here. So question is, how can companies create candidate-centric candidate experience for those applying? And maybe you have some very specific examples of organizations that, differentiated themselves.
Yeah. So I will divide this answer in two big things. So the simple thing that I believe that everyone can do, that it's a bit aligned with what Catarina said in the beginning, that is treat people with respect, giving feedback, setting up deadlines, making sure that the candidate has like a detailed feedback about what went wrong on the interview so they can get better. So all these things that is treating people how you would like to be treated, it's very simple. And I think We have a lot of companies that still don't do that. Why? I don't know. If I'll know, I'll be rich already. So I think this is really important that companies and recruiters and hiring managers think about the candidates and do the basic stuff like communication, informing the candidate, and making sure the basics are there. Because if the basics are there, it's much easier to attract people and to retain people in the process. But if the basics are not there, I can tell you a lot of marketing strategies and how to create a fancy office or how to evaluate the candidates in a fancy way, but that won't work. Okay, because if every 10 applications, 5 of them will share the role, they don't have feedback about your company, in the long run, you'll have a bad score on Glassdoor or Teamlizer. People will speak bad about your company in company dinners or in company or in dinners with friends. So I think it's very important that the basics are done first before we're going a bit fancy or before we go with very innovative actions, because I think they might work and will help you to differentiate from the others. But if the basic thing is not done, don't go to the overpowered stuff, because you need to make sure that your processes are correct, that you have a good ATS to send automatic emails when needed, that your recruiters are trained to really treat well the candidates, because you need to see every single candidate has a potential employee or has a potential client. And one more time, I think that will help you to improve your candidate experience. Going to examples that can be a little bit more, I would say, outside of the box. So during my time at Mercedes, our CEO had a brilliant idea, in my opinion, that was sending a notebook to candidates that we reject on a final stage. So we would ask them their address to send a small gift, and everyone that reached a final stage but didn't get selected will receive, like in 2 or 3 weeks, a notebook from Mercedes. And this was amazing because usually people don't receive an email saying they won't move forward, and with us they were receiving a call saying, hey, you didn't move forward because this and that, can I have your address to send something? And people were very curious about it. And then after 3 weeks they will receive a notebook that for us will cost like $5, you know, and with $5 plus, I don't know how many candidates we send a notebook before, but that will increase the number of positive conversations that people have about your brand. So I can guess that at least 1 in every 2 candidates that receive a notebook, they will share with their family. They receive that notebook from a company. When they go to have dinner or lunch with their friends, they will talk about this good experience, because we did the basics first. So we set up deadlines, we give them feedback, etc., etc. And then in the end, we gave something to them that has our brand. And especially notebooks and pens, people really like to use it and to show to their friends. And something that you receive in your home, especially right now, the only thing that you will receive in your home, it's bills or Amazon packages, right? So at least here you are receiving something that you are really not expecting, and it's something just because you apply to a company. I saw a lot of companies as well doing something similar. So there is companies that pay candidates to do technical assessments, for example, or give vouchers to them to use for them to buy something. So giving a little bit of money or something very small to the candidate, I think it's very appreciative of their time. Because if you reach a final stage and you don't get selected, probably you'll invest, I don't know, at least 5 hours of your life, if not more. So I think 5 hours is really the minimum that a candidate will invest to reach a final stage in a company. Probably will be much more, and time is money, right? So I think it's important that at least we compensate a little bit, because we will never compensate the time and the effort that the people really put in if they were engaged with your process. But if you give a small gift in the end, I think that can be very powerful, and the person will appreciate that. And I think that's what we need to aim with candidate experience, is making sure that we appreciate the candidates, because that will lead that the candidate will appreciate us in the future, even though they are not selected for the job. If they are selected for the job, the experience needs to be even better, right? Like Catarina was saying, the pre-boarding needs to be there, because sometimes people are taking 2-3 months before they leave the company and joining your company. So you need to make sure they are already being on board on the company, that you don't forget them, because if you hire someone in January, they start in April, and if you don't say anything between January and April, they will forget about everything they spoke during the interview. If they know the first name of the person they will report to will be already something big. So making sure that at least every 2-3 weeks you send an email saying, it's everything okay, the contract's already signed, this is our pre-onboarding. If you want to read more about the culture, there is a couple of videos here. So all this stuff, one more time, it's quite basic, but it's also something that companies can apply really easy. And I think in terms of cost, it's not that big and can really create a different experience for people. And I think we all are consumers, right? When we go to shop something, we also search for a different experience. And I think when we are applying to jobs, we don't expect that different experience. Everyone expects that will be a nightmare, that you need to send a lot of applications to have conversations, blah, 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 blah. But companies and recruiters have the power to change that mindset and to change that perspective.
Amazing. This notebook idea is so cool. Needless to say, many of us might just copy it.
Yeah, it's such a great idea. I was thinking the same. Yeah. And such a simple action, you know. I mean, I was just happy when recruiters call me, you know, because sometimes you go to the last stage and then you get the email.
If you
Sorry, but we proceeded with another candidate. But it's the last stage. I mean, at least a phone call. But if you give me a book, I mean,
Yes. And then I'll keep on applying every time there is a vacancy.
Exactly.
This is absolutely amazing. And I really, really hope that gone are the days of ghosting. So those who take time to reply, perhaps, you know, it's not the big that eats the small, but it's the fast that eats the slow. So, you know, like the competition is too high. We need to move fast. And I'm glad you mentioned the part of ATS in it, Gonçalo. So I'll drop a question here for the audience to understand who's using an ATS. So have you implemented an ATS to enhance your candidate experience in your company? So do you have such a system in place? Let's see what we have. Let's just give it a few seconds.
We have. It's Team Taylor.
Yeah, that's Catarina. You're very biased here, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
I was about to say the same, that I'm also very biased because I use Team Teller every day, and I'm super happy with it. I already use other ATSs, and I think at least having an ATS, it's a first big step, and then of course there is some ATSs that are better than others.
Mm-hmm. So that actually, it was going to be my second question to you, Gonçalo. Can you imagine a life without an ATS?
I already had that life before. It was so fun.
What was it like? Like, I still meet a lot of companies that don't know where to start. You know, there's still quite a few that use Excel or Google Sheets, or some say that a mailbox is enough. So what's your take on it?
So I already worked like that for 8 months. So when I arrived to one of my previous companies, I had 500 CVs, like 5 or 6 folders dividing those CVs, a mailbox receiving more CVs, and I was by myself to organize all of that. Because the company had a procurement process to buy an ETS that was taking a little bit longer than expected. So in a recruitment perspective, or as a recruiter, that makes your job a way harder. So you miss giving feedback to candidates. So on 500, I know that I didn't give feedback to all the 500 candidates that applied, unfortunately. I tried my best, but I'm not sure if I was even close to give feedback to half of them. But basically, I created an Excel sheet with all the CVs that I saw that were good, because the bad ones I basically put to another folder to see when I have time I will deal with, because they'll produce results for me. So that's how I organized myself, and then started to shoot emails to the ones that I saw that were good. What is the problem here? It's a lot of manual work instead of having an ETS that will organize the candidates, that will allow to click two buttons and send an email to reject. You need to do that manually. So I think you'll take at least 2 or 3 times the time that you'll take to do a simple action with the ATS, and then you'll lose information. And in the future, in 1 year or in years, when you want to do a similar problem, you don't have anything. You are starting from scratch, or one more time you have a folder with 100 candidates and you need to find the ones that you don't remember that's 2 years ago they were good. So with ATS, you have a lot of notes that you can have. You have a lot of automations that you can have that will help you on providing not only a better experience for the candidates, but a better experience for the recruiters that are working in the process. And of course, a better experience for the hiring managers that are doing the interviews. Okay, because they need to find the information. And at the time we were sending an email with each CV saying, oh, here it's my notes, here the CV of the candidate that we'll interview tomorrow. And after a couple of weeks, they had like, I don't know, 20 emails or 30 emails with CVs in their inbox. And this is also not compliant. So there also becomes a lot of problems on that part. And it's a lot of confusion for the hiring manager that is probably dedicating 5 or 10 hours a week to recruitment. And they are, of course, dedicating more time because they don't have the applications to help them to do their work. So it's possible to...
I hope we're not losing Gonçalo.
Yeah, he froze.
Gonçalo, come back.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, sorry for that. I was just saying that will be a way more expensive to work without a ATS than working with one, because the money that you are investing on the software, I think you get that with the time that you'll that are working in the process.
Absolutely, yes. So calculating our own ROI in this is quite simple indeed. Guys, I have some results here to share with all of us. So just click in here, and this is what we got. So 65% of our audience said that they use an ATS, which is amazing. So we have some tools in place already. Still a small fraction that does not use it or else use other tools. It would be very interesting if you guys could share what kind of tools you use. So let's create a community for ourselves so we can be friendly enough and share best practices. Catarina, speaking of best practices, I would also like to touch on the topic of impactful and memorable. So we just spoke of the notebook. So very much along the lines of the concept of a notebook. So do you have any other ideas or practices to share with the audience in terms of how we can create such impactful experience for candidates?
Do you know what? It's actually interesting that Gonçalo mentioned start with the basics, because that's what I have on my notes. So sometimes we try so much to innovate, we want to have all this innovation in our candidate experience, when most of the times the basic will do. I mean, because a lot of companies don't do the basics. So, Gonçalo left.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he joins us again.
Yeah, but basically that's what I was saying. Like, make sure that you have the basics on before you go and explore innovative ways to reach the candidates. I would say that the ones that I saw that might make sense are, for example, chatbots on your website where candidates can interact. Candidates or prospects. Candidates can explore some questions before even joining the process. I would say that's good. I would also say that one thing that flexible scheduling, because sometimes we just give one slot and then the candidate is either working and then you have all these back and forward. So flexible scheduling, I think it would be awesome. But the first thing to say, I would say is start with the basics. So make sure you are answering to your candidates. You give feedback on time. Don't just send the automatized email if that candidate is already in the last stage of the recruitment. I mean, I would say that, but one of the things that I've seen best now implemented is the chatbots. I think that can be actually interesting.
Beautiful. So then I'm just wondering, so touching on the money topic, do you think it's an expensive thing to create a good candidate experience? So whether we get chatbots involved or not?
I mean, it can get expensive, but it also can cost zero. I mean, like I said, the basics are not expensive. Like to answer your candidates, to set clear expectations, to give them deadlines for when you're going to answer. I mean, that's not expensive. I mean, it's part of your time, but it will pay off in the long run. So
exactly. I placed this question with the expectation of having this answer, Catarina, because most of the important things at work, in life in general, cost zero to treat each other kindly. But speaking of budget, so let me place a question here as well to get the audience involved. So how much are you willing to spend on good candidate experience? So I would like this topic to be a little better shaped. So really, let's talk money here. How much would you spend on it?
And by the way, of course, you can do it for almost zero costs. But for example, when Gonçalo was explaining what he used to do when he didn't have an ATS, I was like, Jesus, I'm tired. I'm tired just by listening. And that's the thing. Like, if you can have that kind of help, I would say it's precious, because you have everything in one place. You can see the history of the candidates. You can see the journey of the recruitment process, where you can pass the candidates for each phase there. I mean, it's so much easier than doing everything manually and then have to search entire Excel sheets or in your mailbox that has 100 more things in there. So yeah, I was actually getting tired just by listening to Gonçalo's prior experience.
Yeah, it would. So Gonçalo, you have a lot of experience still with different kinds of tools. So what would you say? So does it have to be expensive?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and actually I changed my opinion on the spot, because I think candidate experience might be expensive, because we also need to think about other costs that we have. So not only the ATS, but imagine that you don't have recruiters and you are trying to do everything by yourself as a hiring manager. That will be very expensive, because the time of your hiring manager usually it's expensive, right? And if you don't want to have that time, probably you need to have 1, 2, 3 recruiters, depending on how many hires you want to bring on. So I think it's expensive but worth it, because not having a good candidate experience, so if you are trying to go cheap and don't invest money on it, that will hurt you in the long run, and will get you worse employees. Worse employees will get you worse clients, will get you worse client delivery. So in the long run, this is an investment that you are doing on bringing the best workforce possible for your team. And I always heard CEOs saying, oh, people, it's the most important assets. So it's obvious that you need to invest on the candidate experience, because that will bring you the most important asset for your company. So if you walk the talk, I think it's very easy to justify the costs of a good candidate experience. One more time, it's possible to do the basics with very low budgets. So, but you need to have the people in, and also to make sure that the people are in and have the time to do it. Because if you have a HR person doing contracts, doing onboarding, doing recruitment, sending emails, helping doing the office management from the office, they won't have enough dedicated time to do recruitment. And I think recruitment is a very special job in the company. So I see a lot of companies saying, oh, our HR do recruitment. I think recruitment should do recruitment and HR should do HR. They might be part of the same team or the same umbrella, depending on how big is the company. But you need dedicated people to recruitment if you want to hire at least 2 or 3 people a month. So if you want to hire one person every 2 or 3 months, it's fine that your HR person do everything and maybe you don't need a fancy system on candidate experience, but if you want to hire 2 software engineers a month, you need to invest on the candidate experience, because that will probably be enough time for a recruiter being full-time on this, plus your hiring managers, plus your company also breathing and talking about because I also believe that the candidate experience, it started really from the top, from the CEO, from the management, because they will dictate the rules and dictate the message that a recruiter or the hiring manager will pass to candidates. So yeah, the candidate experience is expensive, but it's worth it in my point of view. Of course, that can become very expensive if you have a lot of money, but it doesn't need to be that expensive if you want to make sure that you have the basics in and then improve over time.
Fab. So Gonçalo, you have the whole audience walking by your side. So if I share those results with all of you, everyone agrees that less than 1,000 euros is worth nothing. So we are at square zero, and it can only go up. Very much agree with you. So moving on then, just very conscious of our time today. Second topic that is very important for all of us is what we track. So when it comes to our processes, with so many things happening, it's very important to keep track of those. So if we track away, as we say, what are the KPIs that we should focus on? Any of you guys, let's share your thoughts.
I would say Gonçalo might be the better person for this answer, but I do have some here, because even though I'm employer branding, I used to be part of the people and culture team. I would say like time to hire, because it should be part of your job to see if you're hiring fast or not. And this is interesting, especially when you hire a lot. The customer hire, quality of hire, and that ATS are great because they give you that kind of information too. The source to know where to invest, the candidate satisfaction. So the CNPS, let's call it that, like that. That's super important, like to see if you're not only the score, but actual open questions to see how to improve the candidate experience. And the rest I will leave it to Gonçalo, because I mean, he's the pro at recruitment.
You are not leaving anything, because I agree with you, and I think the NPS it's the one that I look more into it when I want to improve the candidate experience, because that will give you actually suggestions, and if you ask open questions, the candidates will tell you the problem that you have. So with that, it's much easier to improve the candidate experience with that information than if your time to hire is 30 days or 40 days. What that's really tells you
Exactly.
a lot of things. Tells you that you are being slow or are being fast, but comparing with whom, and I think the problem with time to hire and those type of metrics is you always need a comparison. You compare it with the market, what the market is. So if you are a fintech company, are you comparing with cybersecurity companies or other type of companies? And I think sometimes that comparison is not fair, but the NPS, you are comparing the experience that you are giving with what the candidates are having experience with outside of your roles, and that's really the market that you need to compare with. That candidate, that senior software engineer, that it's applying for 5 companies and you are lucky because they choose you, and then you can compare with the 4 competitors that they're also trying to get him. So I think that the NPS is a very core thing that you need to work on, and also having a good survey to have a good NPS, and then you look to other metrics. I think the quality of hire is something that everyone says it's important. I never saw a company calculate them in a really good way, because it takes time, right? So you hire someone, the person gets on board, blah, 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 blah. So you only have results 6 months or 1 year after hiring someone to see if they were a quality hire. Even if they leave before 1 year, doesn't mean that the higher quality wasn't good. Just mean that probably someone give them more money or give them a better opportunity. So there is so many factors that affect the quality of hire being high or low, that it's hard to calculate, and I'm still trying to figure out a good way of doing it. But it's a good metric to analyze, especially when you have a lot of hires to be made. And I think this also, you need to see where you are right now. So depending on how many positions you need to hire, it's more important to see certain metrics. And if you don't have that high volume, it's more important to see other metrics and ask people their opinion. So imagine that we reach a final stage and we reject someone on the final stage. When you call them, you can say you didn't advance because the other candidate had 5 more years of experience than you and this certification and was a better fit. By the way, what you thought about the recruitment process, which things we could have done better. And I think that information, that one-on-one information, that it's not scalable, it's more important to improve candidate experience when you are not hiring a lot of people. Then when you reach that stage that you need to hire 5 people per month, 10 people per month, you'll be more used to get information in and to improve your process. But to reach there, I think you need to go on the basics one more time and go one-on-one with your candidates and making sure that you have the information on your side.
And by the way, for the quality of hire, I would say you need to be more sophisticated and already with a lot of processes defined to get that specific metric. But yes, I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. Because if you are hiring like 1 or 2 people a month, probably the quality of hire will be hard to calculate because you don't have that beforehand, right?
Yeah.
You need to have enough volume to making sure that you have the criteria defined before. And usually when you have a lot of volume, you don't have time to define that criteria because you are focused on hiring a lot of people. So it's tricky.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing, as you were talking about the comparisons, like who are you comparing you to, right? In our case, we compare to ourselves because we already have so much data, right? So we can do that and see, at least we can predict what can happen based on our data from previous years. But yeah, I would say, like, if you compare, at least compare to yourself if you have that data, because everyone else will be different depending on area, industry, the employer brand itself, because a lot of people, you know, if they have a good employer brand, they will technically have more data to analyze too. So,
yeah.
Exactly. I'm listening to you guys thinking it's so amazing that the webinar is being recorded because it sounds like we have another big sticky note. Like we just listed down so many important aspects. So I hope that those who are watching us are enjoying this as well. Gonçalo, you were going to say something now?
I was just on the comparison internally, I agree, but I found something that, imagine that you compare the data that you had in 2020 with the data that you have now, since we were living in a different scenario. It's not that's a great comparison, but I agree with you because I really like running. And I think when you run, you are always competing with yourself from yesterday. And I think on candidate experience, we should do the same. Since 2020, I think that comparison with the previous year sometimes might be a little bit tricky just because the context changed a lot. So I think it's also important to have that context in mind when we compare ourselves.
Yes, that's why I think quality. Now my brain now. It's basically like, don't trust just the data, right? Because that's it. So you, of course, you have data to compare, but then you also need to do a qualitative analysis about it. So you don't get into those kind of ambiguous, because that's it. Like 2020 was so much different than what it is right now. So if you do a straight comparison, of course, it won't give you the right results, right? It will be misleading.
Exactly. Content has changed, so have the candidates, I believe. So the market has become very, very diverse. So We're almost finishing, but I want us to touch on the Generation Z. So I believe they have very unique characteristics. Their values are somewhat different. So I'm just thinking, how can we adapt our candidate experience to align with those values? We will have a deeper dive into it maybe in the next webinar to describe those values, but just generally speaking, how can we align with them?
That's actually so interesting, because I find that Gen Z appreciates what should be appreciated by all, you know. So basically this generation likes to keep it real. They are prone to flexibility. They want work-life balance, a collaborative work environment. So plus they are digitally native. So we need to take that into consideration when thinking about the candidate experience. I don't think we should have one candidate experience for Gen Z, because I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of companies don't have that time to, you know, be specific about the generation. I feel like if you meet those standards, so you're real, you're genuine, you have a purposeful product or company. I mean, the product itself doesn't need to have a purpose, but at least the company, right? I know you're disagreeing, but because, for example, I don't know, e-commerce, right? Selling beauty cosmetics. I mean, of course, there's a purpose behind it, but you know, it can get just about money. So, but if the company itself has a purpose, so I think that's interesting. But getting back to the question itself, sorry, I would say like ditch the over fabricated stories, keep it genuine. Feedback is so important because Gen Z values growth and development. And I think for Gen Z, flexibility really is key. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more one more time. And I think coming back to your first answer, I think it's those basics that we spoke of, being fast, giving feedback, etc., that this type of generation really value, and then having purpose. And I think having purpose and having a mission that you can follow and a mission that you can be part of, it's key not only to attract the candidates, but also to keep the employees afterwards. Because I think the big problem is, okay, you can really like mislead them to say that you have a nice mission or a nice product, blah, blah, blah. But then they enter, they don't recognize that vision. And after 1 year or 2 years, they will join another company. So
2 years is being...
I'm being nice.
Yeah, you're being nice. 2 years is being nice.
So I think, yeah. So 2 years, it's a good time right now. I think a good average that companies should aim for, depending, of course, on the role. But there is also other roles that people stay for longer. So I think that's really, hard to measure. But yeah, I'm being nice on it. But I think it's really important to make sure that people know the mission and knows the values beforehand. And sometimes I think it's also fair not to scare candidates, but to be really factual and being really real about that. So in the beginning of this year for Hiire, I had someone that I really liked. That person didn't have experience in recruitment, but had experience in sales. So I thought, okay, this is a good match. But when I present the offer, I told the candidate that you don't recruitment, really not going right, because you need to adapt and grow quickly with us, because we are also growing. And the person ended up to refuse our offer because the person was afraid of the challenge that she will have in the company. And I think sometimes it's important to make sure that they really see the reality before they sign in. Because if they see the reality after they enter, they will leave sooner or later. And that will become even more expensive. You need to do another onboarding, another recruitment process. So it's better that people see it during the journey before they become an employee, even if they don't become an employee, than having an employee that won't be an engaged employee after a few months. And you learn how to do it in the right way. For example, in my case, in this case in particular, I think I should have set up the expectations way for and for the aids to make sure that it was engaged and the person wasn't that engaged and was fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope
Thank
you
you
could
very
hear me
much.
till the end.
Yes, we could. Yeah, it's breaking a little, but we could. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, guys. Super conscious of our time left, so we need to
We're
make sure.
Portuguese. We're Portuguese. We talk a lot.
And yes, and now I'm based in Sweden, so it's in Sweden, but it's like Swiss trains, very much on time and sharp. So, but I want to make sure that we answer a few questions. But just one final question for both of you. So imagine we're a group of friends here. We have one that has a new project in hands to start working on candidate experience. So what would be your recommendation? So where should one start? Let's say 3 key things to start with. So here we're searching for a very small sticky note, just one, yeah?
Do you want to go first, Gonçalo?
I think that will go towards what you say, making sure that everyone has feedback. I think that's the first thing at all, making sure that everyone that is involved in the recruitment process and candidate interaction knows what they are doing. So making sure they know the person they are looking for and how to provide a good experience on that. And then in the end, making sure that you have the systems and the technology to allow both of them to give feedback and to know the profile. So in a very short way, I would say those 3.
Yeah, I actually thought about more if someone enters a new company and has to do this for the first time. First, I would say, of course, analyze what you already have, because if you don't, you won't know what to do. Then also ask for feedback around the company to understand, to your employees in this case, because usually you will recruit similars. So ask for feedback around the company too. And then try to get quick wins, because especially in the beginning, people will expect for you to have an impact right away. So this can be done by, for example, reviewing the candidate messaging, the job descriptions. So get quick wins, and then you can start with the big fishes, like hiring manager training for hiring managers, or go deep into the candidate experience step by step. I mean, go quick wins, because otherwise people might not understand the relevance of iterating on the candidate experience, let's say.
Beautiful. So we have presented a small cheat sheet to everyone. Use it, guys, at will. And let's use the last few minutes to answer some questions. We have a few, guys, so if we don't answer them all, we will get back to you in some way. So I'm going from bottom up, and Catarina and Gonçalo, let's just try be very brief on those so we can take a few more. So first one we have, what are the best channels to use in Portugal to reach good candidates? So what is meant here, perhaps maybe job boards or LinkedIn or your own career site? What is proving to be the best here? I'm interpreting someone's question.
Yes. I think it should be Gonçalo answering, because my question would be, it depends, because it depends on your goal. For example, if I want to hire senior profiles, does Indeed work? I mean, depends, depends on but at least for us, LinkedIn works well. We are also on all those platforms, Indeed and stuff like that. But I would leave it to Gonçalo, because it really depends, I think.
Yeah.
Gonçalo, what would be best?
Yeah, first of all, also depends what a good candidate means for you.
Exactly.
Because, for example, on universities and job fairs, you can find a lot of good talents. But I would say that LinkedIn is the main source for almost 90% of the role. But we need to live with that. Then in Portugal, I think, for example, Teamlizer, it's a very important tool for tech profiles.
Yeah.
And on that, you also have GitHub, meetup.com, for example. It's also a good source of people that are curious about a certain area. And then you have job boards, but to be honest, my experience with job boards specifically, like Indeed, is not the best. Sometimes you get lucky, but I think it's more the times that you get lucky and you get someone than the times that you know that will work for sure. So what works for sure, it's in my opinion, it's more a sourcing strategy of defining in which companies we have a certain person or a certain role, and then reach out heavily on LinkedIn with a personal message to those people. This is the strategy that works, one more time, 80% of the times. And then, of course, if you need 10 new graduates, you need to invest on universities. But if you need seniors, you need to invest in another things. Then you have also sometimes like Pixel Camp, I think it's the name of it, was a good source of candidates a few years ago. I'm not sure if that's still active, but sometimes conferences can also be a good spot to meet talents, but you need a lot of efforts to produce not that many results. So it's that fight that you'll need to have that usually LinkedIn solves that, because it's the place where people are, basically.
One more very interesting question from Miguel we have here. So from a marketing/HR perspective, there is a metric that is always left behind. How is the SEO and the SEM of the career page?
Well, I think it's super important, of course, because you need to optimize your website to if someone is searching for you, right? So I think that's super important. But like Gonçalo said, no one will search, for example, no one will search for Infraspeak. You know, what happens most of the times is they get to know us on LinkedIn and other social media profiles, and then they will start searching on Google or even go directly to our website. So I would say, of course, keep your website optimized. But I don't know if you should expect just results because of that, you know. It should be something to tick, and of course you can go deeper. But yeah, because there's a lot of competition in SEO, especially in recruitment.
Exactly. One more question from Aram. So I have been using TeamTailor for 3 years now and love the application forms we can create. Thank you. Do you think it is worth using CVs nowadays at all? So maybe that's a question to you, Gonçalo. How is it going with CVs these days? Maybe some candidates that, you know, are all about short attention span don't even spend any time on them.
I wish, because I think it's not a question of being worth it. It's a question of the market is doing like that, so you need to do it. So I also have an experience on hiring someone to my team where I asked, you can send a video or you can send a CV, and we receive 100 applications, and I just received 3 videos. And all those 3 candidates were interviewed, and 97 candidates, not all of them were interviewed, right? But everyone that sent a video was interviewed because I saw the effort they put on it. However, the CV is still the norm in the market. So I think it's not a question of being worth it. I don't like CVs. I don't think it's a good prediction that the person will do a good job, but it's what people are used to it. So nowadays, when I open a CV, I just want to open the LinkedIn because it's all the same. It's easier to read. And then if I feel that LinkedIn it's okay, I come back to the CV and analyze better. Or if the LinkedIn profile doesn't have enough information, I come back to the CV. But as a recruiter, I think it's much easier to analyze all the same, and the LinkedIn's every time the same format, or analyze the video that is more interactive and you can get more from people. But I think candidates are not there yet to be that creative in most of the areas, and companies are not ready or pushing this type of innovative forms because they want results tomorrow. And I think if they wait a little bit more and making sure they have a good explanation why they want a video instead of the CV, this also doesn't work for every single area, but I think it works for a lot of areas. We will get more people doing it, but then we still have a part of the people that will be more shy or more introverted that don't want to do a video, but maybe they can record the audio, for example. Maybe it's easier, or writing an article about it. So there is several possibilities companies can investigate and do to differentiate themselves, but the CV is still the norm, and I think we will live with that until I get retired, unfortunately.
Yeah. I super agree, because we're used to in tech getting all the information on LinkedIn, but some areas they don't upload on LinkedIn.
Yeah. It depends on the
exactly.
Yeah. Guys, the time is up, so yeah, we should be finishing now. Thank you for your answers. Thank you for your contribution here. We will make sure we get back to all the remaining questions in some form, like I said. But thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Catarina. Thank you, Gonçalo.
Thank you, guys.
And, see you in the future.
See you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.